Welcome to Screw the Commute, the entrepreneurial podcast dedicated to getting you out of the car and into the money, with your host, lifelong entrepreneur and multimillionaire, Tom Antion.
Hey everybody, it's Tom here with episode 553 of Screw the Commute podcast. I'm here with Emmy Wu. She is a 20-year Hollywood veteran, and she's going to talk about some really cool stuff with attracting audiences for your high-ticket offers with video. And you all know that I'm all into video. I've been doing video probably before she was born. And, just one of my videos has brought in $13 million. So I believe in video, trust me, but I'm always, the schoolhouse door is always open. I can't wait to hear what she's going to talk about. All right. Hope you didn't miss episode 552. That was add uniqueness. This was something that one of my solo episodes about throughout my career to stand out in the crowd. You can't just do the run-of-the-mill stuff. So that gives you a lot of ideas on what to do to really add some uniqueness to your business. Now, how'd you like to make big commissions? All you have to do is email me at tom@screwthecommute.com, and I'll discuss with you how you can refer our stuff. You can make commissions even in excess of $5,000 for one referral, and anything we got all a range of products from $17 to $58,000. So you can make a lot of money referring our stuff, and we never get complaints or lawsuits or anybody because we take care of our customers. All right, make sure you pick up a copy of our automation ebook. This has saved me 7.5 million keystrokes, and that's not an exaggeration. We estimated a couple years ago, probably 8 million by now. And you can get to your customers faster. You can knock your workload down. You can make more money because you'll beat your competitors to the punch. So download a copy of that at screwthecommute.com/automate free. And while you're at it, pick up a copy of our podcast app at screwthecommute.com/app. That's APP. And you can put us on your cell phone and tablet and take us with you on the road. Now, we're still going strong with our scholarship program for persons with disabilities. I always knew that my school was just perfect for people that had mobility problems and things. Although when I started this, I wasn't expecting two of the people to be blind. All right. Now you talk about video. All right. They shot videos that are nicer than mine, and they are blind, and they're by themselves doing it. So anytime you cry the blues when Emmy's talking about video and you say, oh, I can't do it. Well, go watch their video, and no excuses out there. So I would love to have your help supporting this program. We've got 3 people in it right now. We're going to use some of the GoFundMe money to hire persons with disability to help run the program. I don't know, maybe GoFundMe will give me some of that trucker money they stole from the Canadians. I don't know. We'll see. I doubt it. But love to have your help on this. So check it out at imtcva.org/disabilities. Of course, that'll be in the show notes. And it's something you can really be proud of, I'll tell you, to change these people's lives forever. So love to have your help on that. All right, let's get to the main event. Emmy Wu is known as the leading storyteller and strategist for leaders, creatives, and visionaries. She works closely with her clients to discover the hidden gems in their story to weave them into storytelling that turns brands into legends. Emmy, are you ready to screw the commute?
I'm so ready to screw the commute. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I'm all over video. When I see, I've had 3 people from Hollywood working for me, retired people. One was nominated for an Emmy for the Winds of War miniseries. Again, that's probably before you were born, but and the other guy was a celebrity promo director, and another guy. So I was just amazed. Cool. And I really believe in professionals because so many people can just grab their cell phone and slop a video up there, but there's a lot of details to it. So tell us how you decided to start helping people rather than just doing videos.
Great question. Well, I mean, I have always had a passion for telling stories with the visual picture. I've even as a little girl, I would just fawn over how music and certain images would be able to conjure a feeling
Mm-hmm.
that you just simply couldn't do with other mediums like blogs or, an Instagram post. And so I actually lived in Vancouver, BC, in Canada, which is kind of, Hollywood calls it their mini Hollywood, because a lot of films would go up there and be shot in our landscape. And but I eventually met a boy, as many stories change at this
Here's
point.
our first story, folks.
Yes, exactly. And he was American. So when it came time for me to eventually move down here to be with him, I was like, well, I guess I could, find a media job or something. But there was just something about taking my skills online and having the potential to work on really meaningful projects and to just make this thing really my own was kind of what drove me to start my own business back in 2015.
Well, wow.
So it was, yeah,
Well,
it
no,
was,
I was going to say,
a
I'm
bumpy
feeling
road.
kind of bad. You had to slum it and come down and get an American, yeah.
Oh, well, nothing compared to the dating scene previously. So that was my win.
Did you ever hear of Kathleen Madigan? All right, she's
No.
a comedian. She's really funny, but I always think when I'm talking to somebody about Canada, she said she did a tour up in Canada. She said, Canada is kind of like the attic to the United States. It's up there, and you forget about it, but it's got a lot of cool stuff up there.
It's funny. I always felt like I'm probably not the only one who thinks this, but I feel like the US is kind of like the big brother of us Canadians, and everything is just kind of like times 10. Growing up as a Canadian, we were always exposed to American culture and media and everything. So it certainly wasn't foreign to me. But since moving here, I certainly experienced the differences between the two cultures.
Well, we have 10 times the guns and 10 times the crime. So there's a good start.
Oh, well, there's certainly 10 times more of the population. And I think that was one of the first things that hit me, like, wow, a lot more people. And that certainly has its own pros and cons. Cons being traffic, pros
Yeah.
being opportunity and connections.
Well,
and
you don't
building a
have to worry
network.
about traffic. Well, you're in Portland, but I was going to say in LA because everybody has to stay home with the
Yeah,
mandates.
that's true. That's true now, right?
Yeah, this is so so storytelling. Give us I mean, you hear a lot of terms that I never really understood because I kind of wing stuff, but an archetype. What does that really mean?
Mm-hmm. So I certainly didn't invent the idea of the archetypes. Carl Jung has, worked through them extensively. So has Carolyn Mice, and essentially they are snapshots of the human psyche that help us to understand the different phases and mindsets, I guess, and growth patterns that are existent within humans, as in all phases of life. And something that I realized when I was teaching video marketing to my students and my audience was there's this huge resistance to be on video. So many people
Mm-hmm.
say, I hate the way I look, and sound. And then once they would actually push themselves to be on video, they just didn't enjoy the process at all. They always felt like I either rambled or I would just freeze up. And so I thought it would be a really cool thing to help business owners decide which types of videos are most aligned with their personality and their business model, so that the whole kind of learning curve of getting onto videos and starting to become more fluent with them wouldn't be so painful. And so that's how the archetypes of video magnetism kind of came to be.
Now, is the word arc, like they talk about in movies all the time, short for archetype? Is that what that is, or is it a whole different thing?
I believe it's a whole different thing. I'm not sure entirely where the origin of that
Mm-hmm.
word is. But I would say between all the archetypes, there is certainly a story arc at play. And it's typically from stages of tremendous fear to stages of joy and exaltation and just truly being who you're meant to be.
Well, that's scary because if they knew who I was really meant to be, gee, nobody watched my video. I'll tell you a video when I run into that with folks, my students. I start them out on screen capture videos so they can have a bad hair day
Yeah,
and nobody sees them. They just hear them and they just
right.
capture the screen. But that's far from yours. I'll tell you what. I watched some of yours. Uh, what I one of the things that just really grabbed me, which maybe it shouldn't, but I'm kind of tearing things apart a little bit. But your music selection was just amazing on
Mm.
your videos.
Oh, thank
So tell
you.
us a little bit about that. And of course, you got to stay
I
copyright free. That's the danger of just throwing some music on a video.
That's right. That's right. It's well, thank you first for mentioning that because it's it's very common that people will say, "Oh, what a beautiful video. I love those shots." And visually things stand out to
Mm-hmm.
people. But it's not as common for people to recognize just how big a role audio actually plays
Right, right.
in that whole storytelling
I
process.
mean, that's what I
Um,
mean. That it should just make the feeling and not be the concentration of the feeling.
right, right.
Like
And
if somebody's going down some of these crazy idiots that in horror movies that I better go down and check that noise. It sounded like somebody has an axe down there. And then
yeah, let me just walk down these
yeah,
dark stairs by
right.
myself.
But then if you really pay attention, the music goes along with that that feeling of horror of what's going to happen.
Yeah, yeah. So foreboding
Yeah,
and perhaps
yours
even
weren't horror at all. They were just
no.
beautiful. Yeah, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
So
Um,
how big a part out of like if a video production is 100%, how much
mhm.
what percentage of effort do you put into the music?
Oh man, how do I even, I would say it for me personally, and this may not be it for, all filmmakers and all videographers out there. But for me, music plays a huge part in
Mm-hmm.
it because as we were just speaking about the archetypes, I also take my clients through this archetype kind of framework. So we nail down for them what is their main archetype, and then we build the story, the soundtrack, the look, the feeling based on their archetype and of course their own brand.
So it's right from the
So
beginning then. It's not after you get all the shots and put the video together, then you think about music. That's not how you do it.
no.
Yeah, it's part of the deal.
Yeah, I'm already thinking about what is the overall feeling of
Mm-hmm.
this brand. Is it going to be fun and upbeat and warm and relatable, or is it going to feel luxurious and almost a little bit out of touch, from mainstream and etheric? So all this, the feelings that I'm trying to convey in the video go hand in hand with the music selection, and it's definitely something we plan in pre-production.
Got it. Got it. So give us some tips about you help your clients use this for high ticket sales, right?
Yeah, and myself in business as well. So, I mean, as you know, video is the best medium for building know, like, and trust
Mm-hmm.
because people can see you, they can hear you, they can instantly get a feel for your vibe and whether or not they connect with you or they don't. And sometimes it's a great thing that people don't connect with you right off the bat, right? Because your videos literally filtering out, who are your ideal clients
Mm-hmm.
and who are not. Now, when it comes to high ticket, there are definitely going to be some elements of the strategy that are going to be different from, say, using videos to launch a $500 course or $1,000 course. Now, I do want to differentiate, though, even in the term of high ticket, because I would say for a lot of people in the online space, high ticket is like anything from, $5,000 to $20,000 ish. However, outside of that, high ticket is anything from mid five figures to multi six figures, right? It really depends on who your audience is. And I've worked with kind of both ends of those spectrums. Now, when it comes to high ticket, typically the client, somebody who's going to pay for a multi five figure or six figure results or kind of deliverables, they're not going to be sitting around watching your video series, right? They're not gonna tune in for an hour-long live video while you ramble on about stuff. It might be very valuable, it might be very actionable, but we just have to understand that these people are really busy. And so we kind of come at them from a slightly different perspective. So something that we have done on the agency side, and I'm about to, spill my secrets here. When it comes to video, we actually don't use video as the very first step. We simply use email and copy as a way to kind of start the conversation. And once we've gotten their attention, then we use video to build that relationship and that rapport, which surprisingly, well, or maybe not surprisingly, leads to bookings, because ultimately once they've seen you and seen you kind of walk through personalized advice for them, they're much more likely to trust you and say, all right, I can at least spend 20 minutes on a call with you.
Now, are you talking about excuse me, are you talking about something like Loom, which is the program that makes custom videos in emails actually work?
Yes, Loom is a great tool. There's also Video Ask, which is another great tool. I'm old school, so I'll just use ScreenFlow and literally, record my screen with the walkthrough. And there are several tools nowadays, but yeah, it's wonderful how these tools have made that process so much easier, even if you're not very techy.
Well, I see, I've been selling online since there was online. So in 1994 is when the commercial internet came along. And I can remember the days when you would download 3 hours to watch a 2-minute video that was about 1 inch big.
Yeah,
So we've
right,
come
right.
a long way, baby, right?
It's true. I mean, yeah, if you want to take a walk back in time, I remember when we didn't even have cell phones.
I actually had the first cell phone in my city, and it was in a suitcase. I still have it in my garage. It was in a suitcase. It was a mobile phone, and it was almost like a marine phone on a boat, but it was I carried it in a suitcase.
Yeah, I mean, those things were not very mobile. They were pretty big, and you were definitely considered like cool to have one of those phones.
I didn't have anybody to call, but that was cool. So what are some of the now let's talk about length of a video. What are your thoughts on that?
So this is a really common question that I get, how long should my videos be? And the truth is, it really depends on your goal, and it really depends on your platform. So I would say, definitely since the beginning of the pandemic, there's definitely been a push for shorter videos. And we see this with TikTok, taking over Instagram. Then Instagram madly trying to catch up, pushing Instagram Reels. Yeah. That's right. And then now also YouTube trying to push shorts, right? Yeah. So, there's definitely this culture of quick, short, digestive, fun, let's get to the point and move on. And that certainly speaks for, one area, one part of the demographic. And yet we can't forget that every social media platform's goal is to keep users on that platform, right? And so just because short form video is kind of the popular thing right now, it doesn't mean that we should ignore long form. And in fact, long form videos, whether you know do it in the form of a pre-recorded where you're teaching something, or even say like an hour-long webinar type of video, I believe that those are actually really good to kind of sprinkle among your other content.
Well, listen to this, Emmy. Listen to this. I watched an hour and 15-minute video on how to raise chickens.
Oh, so you were invested in the topic then, I'm guessing.
Well, when I got done with it, I thought, you know what? I'm going to go buy some chicken and eat it because this is too much trouble. So it did its job, you know.
Right. Yeah, it definitely educates you, right? On
So
the whole process.
you're basically saying a mix is best because you know, some people will like longer ones, some people will like shorter ones. So if you have a mix, I guess you can cover more people.
Yeah, and that's always been what I have done, you know, in my business, and something that we encourage our students and clients to do as well. Especially if you're going to be taking over multiple different platforms, it's going to be a must, you know, for somebody who's scaling beyond 6 figures into 7 figures and multi 7 figures. Then yeah, getting your message global and across as many different platforms is going to be a focus. Now, if you're, you know, kind of rocking your side hustle and you're wanting to turn this thing into a full-time gig, then don't worry about being on all the platforms all at once. It's much more important to focus on one. So before asking yourself, how long should my video be? Ask yourself, where are my ideal clients actually hanging out? And do a bit of research. You know, are your ideal clients actually hanging out on TikTok or are they going to be on Facebook? Because those two platforms then require very different video marketing methods and different lengths. So determine where you're going to be focusing, and then that can help to inform your strategy.
Now, what are some of the elements that you believe must be in videos for high ticket sales?
So you must convey the value or the benefit of why somebody needs to stick around for that whole video, whether it's 15 seconds or whether it's an hour and 15 minutes, within the first 10 seconds. And this is, you know, an absolute must, because within those first few seconds is when your viewers deciding, is this going to be interesting to me? Am I going to stick around or am I going to bounce? And studies show that, you know, as the video progresses, you are going to drop more and more in viewership. So that's why it's so important to get the viewer's attention in the beginning. And if you are creating a longer video, are there kind of milestones or engagement driving elements that are sprinkled throughout the duration of the video that keeps that viewer engaged and watching?
What are some examples of that?
Yeah, so a great example, I'll give you two actually.
Okay.
One is in live video, right? I see so many people just going on and saying, oh, hi, I'm going to wait for people to come on and, you know, do the whole thing. And then 10 minutes later, they're finally talking. Don't do that, because you're actually going to get a ton of replay viewers. So try and communicate the value up front and get into it, and you'll leverage that replay much more than you would so if you're, you know, kind of stretching it out and playing it out. So in that live video as well, make sure you are intentionally engaging your audience throughout, you know, asking them questions. What do you think about that? Are you this way or that way? Pop it into the chat box. Deliberately prompting their engagement will drive engagement, which then tells the algorithm, oh, this is good content. People are liking, they're commenting. So the algorithm is then going to push you to more organic views. Whereas if you don't do that, then the algorithm is going to go, this is probably a boring video because no one's doing anything. So it's going to actually limit your views. So this is actually going to be different in pre-recorded though. And another great example that we actually did for a client video, because it was pre-recorded and these were training videos that were like half an hour to 40 minutes long, we had to come up with a way that to keep viewers engaged throughout the entire video. So one strategy was teasing and alluding towards something that your audience will want to know about, kind of, that's fun or provokes curiosity at the end of the video. And so that kind of gives them an incentive to listen into the clues and hints and get to the end. Another really important element of pre-recorded, when you can't, drive engagement right there on the spot, is breaking up the tempo. So when somebody is like talking for a very long time without any change in tempo, that tends to get boring and that tends to drop viewers along the way. So something that you can do is, and something that we did was we added these little interludes of a story in between the client's teaching content. So it was almost like it would tell the story, a little vignette of the story in between her speaking portions that would continue on at about every 10, 15 minutes or so. And so it was almost like, when you watch a TV show or a movie, you're never just following one storyline. There's multiple storylines that's keeping the viewer engaged. And so we basically try to replicate that by having concurrent scenes, so to speak, that help to keep the viewer engaged. And then finally, this pre-recorded video had engagement triggers that prompted the viewer to take action beyond the video. So we almost gamified it, where there was incentive for the viewer to not only finish the video, but to really understand it and absorb it, because there would be some action that they would have to take afterwards where they could potentially win prizes. So there's really this element of gamification and essentially giving the viewer incentives to watch and be engaged along the way.
Yeah, and I love some of the things you talked about there, the curiosity. In copywriting, we call that the Zygarnik effect, because Bloom of Zygarnik discovered the trait of the human mind that they cannot stand unfulfilled curiosity. And so they have to stand in there. And I've had two news directors from major TV stations in my program before. They said, "Oh yeah, we just lie to you. Yeah, we just, in the news, it's going to be in the next segment. Oh yeah, it's going to be at the end of the show." And people hang in there. I tell this story that I was speaking in Los Angeles one time, and I'm putting my tie on, trying to get ready to go down to speak, and the news is on. And they said, "Hey, guess who Britney kissed? We'll tell you in the next segment." And,
Right.
I'm thinking to myself, I don't give a damn about Britney Spears, but wonder who it was.
Right. I know, right?
Yeah. And then I'm there dawdling around, and the next segment goes by. It turned out it was at the end of the show, this kid that she married for like 12 hours in Las Vegas. And I'm like, I'm almost late for the speaking engagement. That's really, really powerful stuff. And another thing you talked about, 10 seconds, if you happen to be doing YouTube in-stream ads, you got 5 seconds, because they can click the skip button after 5 seconds. So you got to even jack it up even more. And then and the power of the stories, Emmy, boy, I'm so glad you're talking about this, is because I used I used to speak in the meetings industry to other meeting planners a lot. And they would come up to me beforehand at their meetings and say, "Oh, Tom, don't feel bad if people get up because they have to go back to work. It was luncheon or something." And I said, I'm sitting there thinking, you watch. And so I would do a cliffhanger story. So I would start a story, and then you wouldn't hear what happened until the end. And afterwards, the lady came up and said, "Oh, they loved you. They never stay for the whole thing. They're always." I said, "Well, there you go. The story did it." So so what have you coined as parts of a story?
Well, I mean, how long is this show?
Well, this is just the major sections. Like, for instance, my definition is problem, intervention, and results. That would be like to boil it down. How about you?
Well, so we all know of the hero's journey,
Yeah,
right? The
right.
hero, and then they meet a challenge, and then there's kind of a rise to action, or a rise
Hmm.
to be, different somehow.
Now that's
And
a
then the
story about
conclusion.
yourself. The one,
Um, it
right?
can be, it can be used in many different ways, but I actually encourage people to tell the story of their audience.
Right,
But
right.
we can get to that
Hmm.
too. But for me personally, within the framework of the archetypes, and also because most of my audience are females, um, I don't typically use a hero's journey story arc to tell the story, but rather the heroine's reclamation. So, one fault, I guess you can say, of the hero's journey is like it's in some ways kind of a flat storyline, right? It's like the hero meets the challenge and then they win, and then it's a happy ending. Of course, very simplified. But it shows that in order for a character or a hero to obtain success or to win in that situation, they have to defeat this villain or this obstacle. Now, in real life, it rarely happens that way, right? It's not like we overcome a challenge and then we have a happy ending.
Well, it worked.
Uh,
It worked for Rocky, but that's not necessarily
yeah,
the.
well, I don't know. Now there's Creed and,
Yeah, right.
the following ones. So instead of just kind of letting the story end at that point, I think it's important to tell the story of this cyclical emergence of kind of your highest power or the client's highest power, just this allegory to who we're supposed to become. And so with the heroine's reclamation, when they go through the challenge, oftentimes they're not just beating the villain, but they're actually reclaiming a part of themselves. And this part of the story can repeat itself. So I'm not going to bore you and your listeners with all the details of that, but I will say that an important part of the story, though, and not in terms of its structure exactly, but how you tell the story and which story you tell. Yes, it's about you, the owner, the marketer, the CEO. You're just the vessel of the story, though. The story that you tell actually should be the story of your audience. It should be the story of your ideal clients and your ideal customers. And when a story really wins and kind of captures the hearts and minds of your audience is when your story actually mirrors the experiences of your ideal clients. And that's when you really connect with people and move people. And they're like, yes, I want to work with you. I want to buy from you. I want to, be in your world.
Now, are you saying that this reclamation idea is better suited to women?
You know,
B-
um,
Because we'll get in trouble for being sexist, and they'll kick us off. Screw the commute.
no, it's not just for women, and I'll share a little bit of the reasoning why. In my research of archetypes and of storylines and of the hero's journey, um, what I came to realize was our kind of Hollywood telling of the story. We would always follow the hero's journey, that's kind of the modern way of telling stories. And there's nothing wrong with it. It certainly works. And that's why we see it over and over again everywhere. But if we were good to go back in time and look at more traditional forms of storytelling across different cultures, across pre-modern times, you will see that across mythology, with the Celtics, with different indigenous groups all across the world, the most revered and feared characters are actually these goddess archetypes who basically come and create revenge in for whatever injustices have been done against them, but they are actually reborn again and again and again in different forms. And in order to complete different stories in that different form of life, if that makes sense. So in some ways, it's a more complete way of telling the different phases of evolution that we all go through.
Wow, you're really deep.
Yeah, I know, right? I bet you didn't expect that.
I'm like a country bumpkin over here, like, whoa, I'm out of my league here with this lady's mind.
Oh,
Tell
yeah, I'm just very fascinated with mythology and story and the origins of story, you know, and I'm always trying to dig deeper and ask why and how can we improve and refine.
I'm totally into it. So now I'm going to ask you to tell us a story about
Mm.
your client who made 3 times their revenue in 1 week.
Yeah, so she came to me because she was essentially overwhelmed, overworked. She was working every single day, 7 days a week, and she was still only bringing back like, $2,000 or so, or like, the odd sale. And it was just this constant feast and famine. And she was like, what is going on? What am I doing wrong? I have a specific target market, and yet they're not hearing me or something. And when we dug under the hood of her business, and part of what I do is, look at who they are, really try and excavate what are their core unique strengths. How do we bring that into their marketing message and that story? And then also, is their business actually aligned with who they are? So meaning their offers. And in this specific example, this client had created this mishmash of digital offers of like courses, of ebooks, these mini courses, and this and that, that were creating a very confusing customer's journey. And so people would, maybe buy this $100 course and then think that the journey was over because there was just literally no clear place for them to go next. And so what we did was we consolidated her offers. I told her to take all those digital offers off of her website, and we're going to focus on one core premium offer. And we refined the marketing message that highlighted her unique strengths from her story and her lived experience of why she wanted to work with this demographic, why she is absolutely the best person that her clients should be choosing to help with this, and focused 100% of our efforts on that one offer. And, she's like, so do I give up all these digital offers? I'm like, no, you don't have to. Just keep them in the back end of your business. You can integrate them into your other offers, but let's just do this experiment and focus on this one offer. And surely enough, within a few days of working with me, somebody signed on, and it was the biggest ticket offer that she had ever sold. And then I had her, share the story, share the offer. And within weeks, she had sold, I think, 3 or 4 very easily just by sharing her story and just truly who she is.
Well, and concentrate. You focused her because, a confused mind votes no always.
Yeah,
So all these things
exactly.
spread out over the place. So it's yeah, you really helped focus in her. Now, how long was the process to get her to the point where she could do what you just said?
Hmm. So in order to just complete the logistical aspects in terms of, looking under the client's hood, really assessing their marketing materials and their offers, that doesn't take more than a couple days. But the hard part, I would say, is for the client to really stick to the belief that they can charge this premium price, and for them to believe that they're good enough to offer that premium offer. That is the hardest part, and that's usually what takes time.
Well, this friend of mine is a really big shot in the publishing industry, and I heard him in a
Mm.
speech one time. He said, I'm $500 an hour for consulting. He says, I'm
Mhm.
thinking about raising my fee to 1,000 an hour and then giving them a $500 an hour rebate if they just do what the heck I tell them.
Aw.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can lead the horse
Yeah.
to water kind of thing. So,
I know,
so
right? But I think with pricing though, we are so accustomed to pricing ourselves mainstream, based on what we see, based on, where we shop, based on seeing these brands put on huge Black Friday sales. So of course we're going to think that lower prices lead to more sales. And maybe if I discount, that's going to make me more affordable. But we forget that those high ticket clients are not looking at price. They're looking for a result, and they're looking for a very specific result and transformation.
well, actually,
And
if,
so,
if it's too cheap, you alienate them. They can't believe it's any good.
absolutely, absolutely. And so instead of just, thinking about, oh, what can they pay? And, in terms of the pricing, look at your pricing as comparative to the value that you deliver that client. So depending on who you're working with, your pricing should reflect the type of value you provide that type of client.
Absolutely. Okay, so we're going to take a brief sponsor break. When we come back, we're going to ask Emmy what a typical day looks like for her. Does she have a morning routine? What she eat? Does she work out? All the stuff that we hear from a lot of folks, and how she stays motivated. And then she's going to tell you about a free event that she's got coming up and how to find it. So, folks, about 25 years ago, I kind of turned the internet marketing guru world on its head, in that guys at my level, or women too, but not that many in those days, were charging 50 or 100,000 bucks up front to help people. And I knew a lot of these people. You give them 50 or 100 grand up front, they'd be hiding out in Vancouver somewhere, Vancouver Island, and partying, and you'd never find them. They wouldn't help you. So I said, you know what, that's too risky. I'm a small business advocate. I'm going to turn this upside down. So I charged an entry fee, which was way smaller than the 50 grand. And then I tied my success to their success. So for me to get my 50 grand, you have to net 200 grand. Well, people really like this idea. And 1,700 students later, it's still going strong. And so many unique things about the program. You get the immersion visit to the retreat center in Virginia Beach. You get a separate trip to our TV studio to shoot videos for you, all inclusive. And everything is one-on-one. I tried group coaching, and I had to dummify everything to the lowest common denominator, and it wasn't up to my standards. So I quit doing that. Everything is one-on-one with me and my staff. So if you're a beginner, you're safe. If you're advanced, I'll talk to you at high levels, and everything in between. And there's just so many. I triple dog dared other marketers to put their program up against mine. Nobody will do it because I'm a crazy fanatic. You talk to me on weekends, evenings, holidays. I don't care. I just want your success. I could have quit doing this 20 years ago, but I just love it. People ask me all the time, when are you going to retire? And I'm like, from what? I just do my thing. My hobbies are all tax deductible because I make websites for them and sell products. I mean, it's just a great lifestyle business. So, and you get a scholarship to the school I was talking about, where we're helping the persons with disabilities, that you can either use yourself for extra training or gift to someone. And I'll tell you what, I have a TV show in development in Hollywood called Scam Brigade. And, if the colleges nowadays, those people would be in jail if they weren't colleges, because of the rip-off fees they're charging people, and putting the kids in debt. And then they get out with their MBA and competing for jobs at Starbucks. So my school is not like that. You get a highly in-demand skill, and either start your own business, work for somebody else, or both. So check it all out at greatinternetmarketingtraining.com, greatinternetmarketingtraining.com. All right, let's get back to the main event. We have Emmy Wu here, and I think she named herself to shoot for an Emmy. I'm not sure, but she did say she had a story about her name. And so, Emmy, tell us about your name, and then tell us what the daily routine looks like for you.
You just had to ask me about my name, didn't you? Okay. So the story is, I was actually born in Taiwan. And so my Chinese given name is Caishi, and it means light of the morning, because I was born at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Oh.
But when my parents immigrated to Canada, they wanted to give me an English name. I was just 4 years old at the time, but I always played with this girl next door, and her name was Amy. And I loved Amy. She was like my best friend, and we did everything together. And so when my parents said, "What do you want your English name to be?" I said, "I want it to be Amy." And so off they went to the immigration office, and then they came back later and they're like, "Okay, here's your name, Emmy." And I'm like, "Emmy? I want it to be Amy." So that's what happens when you send Chinese parents with an accent off to the immigration office. I ended up with Emmy. So that's the story of my name.
Well, okay, so I got a story to go along with that, with accent wise, but I do want to ask you, do you still have relatives in Taiwan? Because aren't people like freaking out over there lately?
Yeah, not anymore,
Okay.
unfortunately. I did go back in my early 20s and explored, and it is beautiful. And also at the same time, I'm very grateful to have grown up here in the Western world.
Yeah, I'm just with all the stuff that's going on in the news about potential attacks on it, it's just very scary
Mm.
nowadays. But anyway, with the with the accent, so so I had a student that was a concierge in Las Vegas, and
Mm.
and she wrote a book called "You Want What?" Because they get all these things, and so this this guy came and asked her. Uh, he, he he wanted a virgin chicken, and so and so she's
Oh,
these
goodness.
concierges that if they can't find what you want, it's kind of an affront to them. They're professionals and they really want to do a good job for you.
Right.
So she's calling all the chefs at the Paris hotel where she worked. Nobody ever heard of it. She called all the chefs she knew at all the other hotels. Nobody ever heard of it. She called the chicken supplier in Las
Oh.
Vegas. Couldn't find anybody doing it, and so she's kind of defeated, basically. And she's apologizing to the guy, and he was Scottish, and he
Mm.
wanted the Virgin airline check-in. so, so
Oh, wow.
yeah,
I never would have guessed that
yeah. So
either.
so so hey, what's a typical day look like for you?
A typical day, I'm definitely a morning bird
Okay.
or morning person.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll usually get up probably around 6-ish, give or take about an hour, depending on what time of year it is. I'll start the day first by doing my workout because
Okay.
I'm one of those people that if I don't get that in first thing in the morning, it's probably not going to ever happen.
Got it. All right.
So I get that
Do
done.
you go somewhere or do it at home or what?
I work out from home.
Okay.
So I
Mm-hmm.
use a kettlebell
Mm-hmm.
and a sandbag, and I get it done. And then afterwards, I usually do a little bit of journaling and just kind of planning my day a little bit. And then I'll take a shower and get ready. And then after I've had my shower and put my face together, that's when I'll come and sit at the desk and start to do my work. It's really important that I set aside, that hour or two just to have my morning routine before the world even touches me. That's really important.
So putting your face together, I try, mine is broken. I admit that. So putting it back together is kind of impossible. So, so, so when do you create stuff? I mean, do you do it when
Mhm.
you're fresh in the morning, or when do you talk to clients, that kind of stuff?
Yeah. So the way I like to block out my week is with themed days. I learned very early on that sprinkling my mentally heavy work with client calls is not a good idea,
Okay.
because I would just kind of go halfway on both of them. So right now, what I do is I typically do all my client calls on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then Sundays and Mondays actually is what I call CEO Sundays and CEO Mondays. So that is when I'm working on the business instead of in the business. So typically this will be times where I'm doing, interviews like this with you, or I'm recording a bunch of videos, or I'm planning out my next launch and working with my team to build out the assets. And then throughout the week, typically I will theme the days depending on kind of what I'm going through in the quarter. So there will be days where I am focused on client work. There might be days where I'm focused on content creation. So I get in my good mix of everything that I need to do in a week by pacing myself out, because one of the most important things for me, and I think coming from the film industry, I have a little bit of a workaholic streak in me. So I'm the opposite of somebody who is hard to get motivated. I will get into my vortex and not stop.
Got it.
So it's really important that I actually even put into my calendar, my workout routine, when I take a lunch break and when I shut off, and create that daily spaciousness so that I can be productive for the rest of the days.
So tell us about your free event that you have coming up, you're working on.
Yeah, so we're really excited about this because this will be the first time we're ever doing this. It's called the Elevated CEO Virtual Retreat, and it's going to be held at the probably February 28th or first week of March. We still have to determine exactly, but it's going to be a one full day where you're getting live trainings about streamlining and systematizing your business so you can go from overwhelmed and stressed out to being ready to scale. And over the years, I've found that the key reasons why clients and people come to me when they feel overwhelmed is because there tend to be something wrong with the three important levers in their business. And that's with your lead generation systems, your sales systems, and your client fulfillment systems. So we're going to go through all that in detail so that you're going to be scale ready and not overwhelmed anymore. So you can be really productive and excited for your business again.
And how do they find where to look for this?
Yeah, so they can just go to my website, emmywu.com.
That's
and
W-U, folks, EMMYWU.com.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, it's not like WooCommerce.
That's right. No.
Yeah.
Good catch, though. Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, thanks so much for coming on. You gave a lot of good tips, folks. Just to recap a little bit, vary the tempo in your stories, and make sure you get engagement. You can gamify. You got engagement triggers. Make sure you go back and listen to this episode. Of course, it'll be in the show notes and the transcript of these things that you can put in your videos to help sell those high-ticket products. And you can get a hold of Emmy at her website. Her contact is at Emmy, EMMYWU.com. And make sure you don't miss that free event. And thanks, Emmy. Boy, sure lit us up today.
Thank you so much for having me, Tom. I just had a blast here.
Well, we can't wait to see your next big deal that you come up with. And Rocky 15, you'll probably be the chief video person on it, right?
Yeah. Well, maybe only if Michael B. Jordan is involved.
Okay. All right, everybody. We'll catch you all on the next episode. See you later.